Hey there, welcome back to the channel. In this video I want to talk about this expression, a diseased mind. This is from 1 Timothy 6 verse 5, and anybody who's been a witness will know this expression very well. It's used by witnesses to describe anyone who has decided they can no longer accept everything that they are told from the governing body, anybody who dares question the orthodoxy of the dogma. If you no longer accept that, they see you as a real threat to the integrity of the religion, and then they expel you, they shun you. This epithet is really quite nasty, but what's interesting here is that it is possibly borrowed from Seneca, who was a 1st century Roman statesman and philosopher. Now, Seneca, in his letters to a Stoic, he was describing a person who fears that which is unfamiliar. In other words, a person that does not want to encounter information that is different from what they believe. Someone who's resistant to new information or new experiences. And he said that a person like that has a diseased mind. That's the expression he used, a diseased mind. If the writer of 1 Timothy borrowed this expression from Seneca, it would be really a delicious irony here, because the writer of 1 Timothy and Seneca were using pretty much the same expression to describe completely opposite mindsets. In 1 Timothy, the writer is calling someone mentally diseased if they simply refuse to acknowledge the truth of Christianity, or as Jehovah's Witnesses have interpreted it, anybody who does not accept everything they're told from the governing body. So in other words, a person who refuses just to uncritically accept orthodoxy is mentally diseased, according to Jehovah's Witnesses. But Seneca is saying anybody who simply is in an orthodox belief system and refuses to engage with any outside critical information, they have a diseased mind. It seems that really we have a choice here. Which definition do we prefer? Once a religious tradition has been established, one of the central occupations of the religious leaders is controlling the narrative, is making sure that people don't stray, don't consider alternative ways of understanding anything. They just go along sheep-like with whatever the pronouncements of their religious leaders are. Helvetius, an 18th century French philosopher, said that in every religion, the first objective of the priests is to stifle the curiosity of men, to prevent the examination of every dogma whose absurdity is too palpable to be concealed. Right through history, people who have refused to submit to religious orthodoxy have had slander thrown at them no end. It is one of the most consistent religious behaviors you'll ever see. If a believer is no longer accepting the authority of a domineering religious group or a leader, they're usually vilified. And the more culty the religion, usually the more extreme the behavior directed at these nonconformists. Spinoza, the Jewish philosopher, was called Satan incarnate, who was craftily introducing atheism. And this was just simply because he decided to think for himself and to investigate whether the Bible really was written by Moses. The Nazis called the Jewish people curious and deniers of reality. Socrates, when he was on trial for his life, was called a corrupter of the youth, an evildoer, and was described as a curious person, just like the Nazis described the Jews, who searches into things. Voltaire, for questioning religious orthodoxy, was called a scoundrel wallowing in the dirtiest stink of free thinking. Irving Janis, the psychologist who developed the idea of groupthink, he said that negative stereotypes function as stress-reducing devices. in order to enhance our moral righteousness and pride. It's almost as if that by caricaturing and stereotyping people who no longer will conform allows us to feel like holy and pure and not infected with their impurities or diseases, and it somehow in our mind legitimizes the fact that we have to distance ourselves from them or not listen to them. We don't want to be infected or hurt or manipulated in any way. And so this stereotyping allows us to behave in this way, and it reduces our stress, even though we probably deep down know we're doing something wrong. So when you look through history, you find countless examples of people who have been vilified and have all these horrible epithets and derogatory terms thrown at them simply because they refused to conform to an orthodoxy. Jehovah's Witnesses call people who no longer conform to their orthodoxy as mentally diseased. Seneca said a diseased mind was one who was in a state of orthodoxy and refused to encounter any outside information. I think I prefer Seneca's definition. If we accept Seneca's definition, Jehovah's Witnesses are definitely mentally diseased. If we accept Jehovah's Witnesses' definition, then I am mentally diseased. So are all former members who no longer accept the authority of the governing body. And we're in good company with people like Socrates and Voltaire and so on. I'll gladly choose that company of people over a group of self-appointed religious shamans in New York. So that's all I have for you today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.